What's up, you guys? FSC, Fest Check Speed and Custom Shop. We're here in Lake Mills, Wisconsin to go see the season opener Cars and Coffee here in Lake Mills. I guess it's Rock Lake Motors that they do it at. So we went ahead and we took our Gold Wing over here. We're not showing this today. I didn't even have the time to even wipe it down, wash it, or anything. Yesterday we were at the Freedom High School car show, and today we're over here. So it's kind of been bang, bang. It's just been crazy busy between getting the Oldsmobile put together, going to the Freedom High School show, and then here. I don't usually like to do shows back to back like that. I did have to put out the Freedom High School car show for obvious reasons. My son's a freshman there, and we are involved with the Freedom High School Auto Club, so we had to get that done too. Either way, we're here for the season opener. Let's get ahead and get started. And we saw a whole line of them coming down the road. Seen a couple of them from past videos that are here as well. I went to go say hi to the guy with the Ford GT. I went to pull up and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. The car's right-hand drive. But he's seen us on the bike, so we'll go say hi to him anyway. All right, let's start walking. Everything is full. More cars than expected today, which is cool, but they're literally parking McLarens in the dirt.
Yeah, that's sad. Is there any like specific way of getting in?
Right foot in first, and then a squat and slide in.
Somewhere. Thank you.
Not a problem.
Well, we're here with Dustin. He was just nice enough to let Matt sit in his Ferrari. Where do we find you at, man?
My Instagram is at Dead Phoenix Rising. Kind of the idea was the car was all horribly neglected and it's being rebuilt like a phoenix out of the ashes. So I try to document all the work I do on it and the process of rebuilding. It's a 2000 Ferrari 360 Modena. I picked it up about 2 years ago. And at the time it was the cheapest one in the country and had a lot of issues that I've been fixing by myself over the years. Biggest issue was having to do the major service and the heat exchanger. There's a heat exchanger right under the intake here that has the coolant run through it to cool off the transmission fluid. And if the coolant isn't changed often enough, those rupture, mixing all the coolant and transmission fluid together. So I flushed that that took a while. I have jugs and jugs of sludge at home that I still don't know how to get rid of. Now what I would do for that is just drive it a little bit, and then all the sludge would bubble up to the top of the coolant tank. Take that out, flush it out. Major service, timing belts are supposed to be changed every 3 years or 30,000 miles, whichever comes first. And when I pulled out the timing belts, they were actually the stock ones on the car. So they were 20 years old.
Oh.
It was a miracle they didn't snap. And one of the timing tensioner brackets had one of the bolts sticking out so far that it was rubbing on the timing belt too. And it was a miracle I got to this car when I did.
What kind of transmission fluid does this run?
I run 75 WNS90 by Redline.
Okay.
So they also have a transmission filter at the bottom. And when I pulled that out after I did the transmission flush, I found a bunch of what looked like metal shavings, which gave me a heart attack, but it turned out to be some silicone that the factory uses.
What size engine is this?
3.6 V8.
3.6 liter V8.
Yep, the little thing, but makes up its power in high RPMs. It redlines at 8,500 RPMs. And when we first got it all back together, it started leaking out of there, and I was afraid I'd have to pull the whole intake back off again, but thankfully I was able to get a socket in there and tighten it up a bit more. Just took it to Minnesota and back over Easter, which is a 700-mile trip, so I think I got most of the issues worked out.
How many miles are on it?
35,500. I got it at 32,800, but I didn't get to drive as much as I like because it kept braking. It does that a lot.
Yeah, well, you managed to make that Easter trip without an issue, so
yeah,
sounds like you're starting to get ahead of the curve.
I'm getting there.
So what do you think it was? Previous owner just got a little over his head as far as maintenance on a car? Like he could afford a car, but not really the maintenance on it, you think?
Well, there were a few things that I know and a few things I suspect. I'm actually the first real owner of the car. It was a lease car all of its life.
Okay, there you go.
It spent its life out in Miami and Beverly Hills, and I guess the previous owner's mother got sick, so she lived in Wisconsin, and he brought it up from Miami.
Right.
And the lease company thought he was stealing it, so they tried getting a hold of the dealership, and they were like, well, you know, we need to know where it is. But he got the service bill for everything it needed. I'm guessing it's probably the heat exchanger and the timing. I mean, and the timing belts.
I can't imagine what Ferrari charges for labor rate on a pretty good sized job like that, ripping half the engine out of it.
The engine stays in, actually, but it still is a major service is kind of a very broad term. All it necessarily entails is the timing belts being changed, but to do it properly, you really got to go through and give the engine a thorough look.
All right, now the wrench in me is going to ask what might sound dumb questions. This is obviously a mid-engine car with the trans being behind the engine, but the engine faces forward.
Yes.
Timing belts are all in the front of the engine against the firewall.
And there's a little plate you can pull out behind the seats that makes it easier to work on.
Oh, so there is access from inside the car.
Yeah, there's access from the bottom, access from the top, you know, and I've even had it before when I did the power steering reservoir a couple weeks ago. I literally, you know, climbed up and was climbing in the car working at it. Yeah, it's been an interesting project, but it's kind of scary too, but that's part of the fun.
Yeah, it looks like I was just taking a look at the roof. Looks like she spent a lot of time in the sun.
It did. So I looked at the Carfax on it, and it did spend like a year where it didn't really drive anywhere. And I'm guessing it was out in the sun, but Ferrari isn't known for their top quality paint jobs. There's the quality to the cars isn't really as good as your typical car because they don't quite have the money for the research and development. You know, like say a Civic does, where everything's tested and tested and tested.
Well, how often are these left out either? You know, you figure you own a Ferrari, you're going to put it in a garage. It isn't going to spend all its life outside getting sunbaked.
Well, that's what they think, but I mean, a lot of people buy these cars just for the image and don't really know how to work on them or do their own work or, you know, necessarily have a place to park them.
Is this your first one?
This is my first Ferrari. Before this, I had a Gen 3 Viper.
Okay, so this is Well, let me ask you this. I would imagine those two cars are a world apart from one another.
They are. The Viper, it scared me because like it was kind of an unpredictable car, and I almost wrecked it in the rain one time. Yeah. But this scares me in the other sense that if something breaks catastrophically, it's a lot of money.
Right.
So it's still it's kind of intimidating.
Which you enjoy driving more, this or the Viper, you think?
Well, the Viper it depends. The Viper was more reliable and had a lot more power. And I mean, I had that Viper for 10 months and I put 10,000 miles on it. And I just took it everywhere. But it's more unreliable. It's not as fast, but it has a lot more soul to it. So, I don't know, it's a tough call, but I definitely want another Viper at some point, but I'm not willing to let this thing go. I think this is probably the car I'm going to keep forever.
I wouldn't mind having it, I'll tell you that. One day, set goals and work towards them. That's what I keep telling Matthew. So I appreciate you letting them sit up in there, even see you guys letting the kids all up in the car and just experience the car.
I want to at least, give kids the vision I had. And that vision took me through some pretty dark times and helped pull me out of them, just staying focused. And I think that if kids, sit behind the wheel of one of these, it might affect them like how it affected me the first time I saw a Viper as a child, because that just became an obsession for years.
I did a video up in Green Bay at Motorama, and I met a guy with a 348 TS, very similar to the red one right here behind you, except his isn't I guess that would be that's a convertible. The other one that Dave has
David's, yeah.
Okay, so you know him then?
I met him.
Oh, okay. Well, he did a whole video with me. He had Matt sit up in the car. Nick let him sit in the Huracan, and that was an experience for me only in the fact that growing up in New Jersey, most people with cars like that want nothing to do with you. It's like, you don't own one, get away from my car. Where they were like, no, open the door, get in. Nick's quote was, it's only metal.
I treat it like nothing different than a piece of metal, because that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, what? That was amazing to me.
Yeah,
and I always give them guys credit.
Owners, there's the purists, and there's the people that, have a lot more passion in it. I mean, you won't really enjoy something if you just keep it to yourself. You gotta share it.
Right.
I mean, I think letting kids sit in it is probably the best thing you can do with these cars. I highly encourage every kid I see. At first I was kind of reluctant because I have those carbon fiber seats, and those are extremely expensive for these cars. I think the last set I saw for sale sold for like 10 grand.
Ouch.
So they're very expensive seats. They're like the deluxe ones, I guess. So, but at the same time, I was like, well, I can just get them reupholstered if I need to. Kids need to experience it.
Well, hey, man, I appreciate you taking the time.
Hey, not a problem.
Awesome.
Thank you.
The owner of the 69 Chevelle here is going to show me a picture of how it was when he started the project. Okay.
So it's come a long way.
Big difference.
Can do it.
Beautiful job.
Takes time.
Absolutely. All right, man, thank you.
You take it easy.